All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're tackling something that gives millions of people the chills. Arachnophobia.
Oh, yeah, the fear of spiders. It's incredibly common. Studies show it affects something like 3 to 15% of the population.
Wow, that's a huge chunk of people.
Mhm.
So we're going to dig into what causes it, but also, and this is the really cool part, how people have actually overcome it.
Right. And you know what's really interesting? It's often not even about the spider itself, it's more about what it represents.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What do you mean?
Well, think about it. Spiders often symbolize this loss of control, right? This feeling of vulnerability. Like our brains are kind of wired to see them as this threat, even if, logically, we know most spiders are totally harmless.
Hmm, that makes sense. Okay, so let's jump into a story that really illustrates this. Have you heard of Emily?
Emily.
She's a wildlife photographer.
Oh, right. The one who was terrified of spiders but ended up photographing, what was it, tarantulas?
Yes, in Costa Rica.
Yes.
Talk about facing your fears head on.
It's almost like fate stepped in and said, time to conquer this, Emily. And it's often when people are pushed out of their comfort zones that we see some serious personal growth.
Totally. So picture this. Emily lands her dream job, right? Photographing all kinds of amazing creatures. Then she gets this assignment. Tarantulas
Hmm.
in Costa Rica.
Talk about a challenge.
Right. And she almost backed out, but then something shifted. She took a leap of faith. And you want to know what the turning point was? Meeting this local guide.
Oh, yeah. I read about him. He specialized in tarantulas.
Exactly. But he didn't just throw her in a pit of spiders. He took the time to educate her.
Yeah, he explained their behavior, debunked those common myths that just amplify fear, and he even let her observe a tarantula up close in a safe environment.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful knowledge can be when it comes to fear. Like, once you understand something, it just loses its power over you.
Totally. And that's exactly what happened with Emily. The more she learned, the more that fear started to fade.
And by the end of the trip, get this, not only is she taking these incredible photos of tarantulas.
She's actually finding them.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I know, right? It's like her whole perspective did a complete 180.
It really shows how powerful it can be to confront fears head on. Instead of being paralyzed, she leaned in, and on the other side, she discovered this new appreciation for tarantulas. She even started to see them as beautiful.
It makes you think, what else are we missing out on because of our fears?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, ready for a different kind of story.
Yeah, hit me.
This one might resonate with folks a little differently. It's about Sam, a college student from London. His fear of spiders was so intense, it was really impacting his daily life.
Ooh, this sounds serious.
It was. It's a classic example of how a phobia can go way beyond just a mild dislike. It starts impacting your quality of life. It's no joke.
I hear you. So we're not just talking about avoiding cobwebs here.
Nope, this was full-on avoidance. Like, Sam couldn't even go into his basement. Forget about going on trips with friends. He was too scared of running into a spider.
Wow, that's rough. It sounds like he was really struggling.
He was. And this is often when seeking help can be so crucial. When fear reaches that level, there are some really effective therapies and techniques, like the one Sam used, that can help people regain control.
So what did he do?
Well, Sam finally decided he'd had enough. He wasn't going to let this fear run his life anymore.
Good for him. So did he just jump right into a room full of spiders?
No, not quite. He took a much more gradual approach. It's called gradual exposure therapy.
Okay, I've heard of that. But how does it actually work? Break it down for me.
So think of it like building a tolerance, but for your brain. With repeated, safe exposure to the thing you're afraid of, you start to basically get used to it. Your brain starts to react differently. It's like rewiring your fear circuit.
So it's not just mind over matter. There's a real biological process happening.
Absolutely. It's all about leveraging the brain's incredible plasticity, changing how it responds to things.
That's incredible. So how did Sam start?
He started small, like looking at cartoon spiders, then photos, then videos, slowly desensitizing himself.
Smart.
Yeah, it's all about finding that sweet spot, challenging yourself enough to trigger a little response, but not so much that it's overwhelming. And eventually he gets to the point where he can handle seeing a real spider safely behind glass at the zoo.
Okay, that's a big step. But wait, it gets even crazier, right?
Yeah.
He
He
actually...
volunteered to hold one.
I know.
Mhm.
I read that and I was like, no way.
I know, but that's the thing with gradual exposure therapy. It helps you build up that confidence and control step by step until something that seemed impossible.
Becomes totally doable.
Exactly. I bet his heart was pounding out of his chest.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Oh, he told me his hands were shaking like crazy, but he did it. And that moment, holding that spider, it was a total game changer for him. He realized that he had power over his fear. It didn't have power over him.
It's such an inspiring story. It really shows that even the deepest fears can be overcome with the right approach and a lot of determination.
It really does. And it highlights something really important. There's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to facing fears.
Right. So we have Emily, who tackled her fear through knowledge and understanding. And we have Sam, who used this gradual exposure therapy. Two completely different approaches.
But both successful. And that's a key takeaway for anyone listening. It's about understanding your own unique needs and anxieties and tailoring your approach accordingly.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a combo of techniques, and sometimes it's about finding that one thing that just clicks for you.
Exactly. And sometimes that might mean seeking professional help like Sam did. There's absolutely no shame in that.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's actually a sign of strength, right?
Yeah.
To recognize when you need a little extra help.
Absolutely. And you might be listening to these stories thinking, okay, these are inspiring and all.
But I'm still scared of spiders.
Right. And that's totally fair. But think about it. If Emily could go from full-blown panic attacks at the thought of spiders to being fascinated by them.
And Sam could work his way up to actually holding a spider.
Imagine what you can accomplish.
Right. It all starts with that first step, no matter how small.
It could be something as simple as reading an article about spiders, watching a nature documentary.
Or even just admitting to yourself, hey, this fear is holding me back and I want to work on it.
That in itself is huge.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Talk to a friend or family member.
Or seek out a therapist who specializes in phobias. There's a whole network of support out there.
Totally. The key is to be patient with yourself.
And
Celebrate every little victory.
never give up on the possibility of change.
Love that. So let's wrap this up with a little challenge for our listener.
Okay, I like it.
What's one small step you can take today to start facing your own fear? And it doesn't even have to be about spiders.
Yeah, it could be any fear that's been holding you back.
Exactly.
Maybe it's trying a new activity or speaking up in a meeting or finally asking that person out on a date.
Ooh, good one.
Whatever it is, remember that courage isn't the absence of fear.
It's taking action even when you are afraid.
Well said. And Emily and Sam showed us the rewards on the other side of that fear.
Can be absolutely life-changing.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on something that really struck me about Emily's story.
Okay, what's that?
Remember how her fear actually transformed into fascination?
Oh, yeah. That was incredible. It actually made me wonder if maybe instead of always trying to get rid of fear,
We could see it as a doorway to something new.
yes, like fear being a challenge, an opportunity for growth.
Interesting perspective.
Right. What if behind every fear, there's a hidden world just waiting to be explored? What if instead of running away, we leaned into the discomfort and saw what we could learn?
It's kind of like a paradox, right? We're so afraid of what we don't know, but the only way to conquer that fear is to actually delve into the unknown.
It's like that saying, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Maybe.
Sure.
Just maybe the things that scare us the most.
Are also the things that have the power to transform us in the most profound ways.
I love that.
It's definitely something to ponder. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this fear? Maybe we should be asking, what can I learn from this fear? What's waiting for me on the other side?
Who knows? Maybe that journey through fear leads us somewhere far more beautiful and fulfilling than we ever imagined.
Now, that's a powerful thought to leave our listeners with. Approach fear with curiosity and courage, and embrace the possibility of transformation.
So well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into arachnophobia. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
We'll catch you next time on the deep dive.
It's like when we don't know much about something, it's so easy for our imaginations to just go wild, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like with spiders, there are so many myths and misconceptions floating around out there. It's no wonder people are afraid.
Exactly. Remember Emily and the tarantulas? Her fears started to melt away once she actually learned about them, their behavior, their role in the ecosystem.
It's like knowledge is the antidote to fear.
It really can be. The more we understand something, the less power it has over us,
So anyone listening who's dealing with arachnophobia, or any fear for that matter,
Yeah,
maybe step one is to just learn more about it.
absolutely. Hit the books, watch some documentaries, chat with experts, arm yourself with knowledge, and you'll be amazed at how much your perspective can shift.
Totally. It's about replacing those scary knee-jerk thoughts.
With facts.
Yeah.
With understanding.
Exactly. And even if you don't totally conquer the fear, Every little bit of progress is a win.
Celebrate those wins no matter how small.
So true. And hey, maybe one day you'll be like Emily, not just tolerating spiders, but actually finding them kind of cool.
Wouldn't that be something?
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into arachnophobia. Thanks for coming along on this journey with us.
Always a pleasure.
Catch you next time on The Deep Dive.